good? What's good? What's good? What's good? This is your boy, Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on your dose of chalking up sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Always grateful. Like I always say, always grateful to be in the presence of the beautiful people. The show is nothing without you guys. The content is nothing without you guys. The Philadelphia Eagles are nothing without you guys, right? We make this thing go around here, the people, the consumer, right? The more you guys invest in the products have to continue to invest in you. And like I always say, I'm always grateful to be here with you guys. I know you guys have a ton of options. I know some of you guys are at work. Some of you guys are probably kicking it on a very random day off. Maybe some of you guys are on your way running errands. Whatever you're doing right now, I appreciate you for taking the time to kick it with me. Because like I said, you got a lot of options. You could be doing anything else. You could be anywhere else in the world right now, but you're here. You're here with me this afternoon. So I appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure before you get too comfortable, before you take your shoes off, before you go into the fridge, make sure you wash your hands and hit that like button. On top of that, make sure you say hi to grandma and then hit that subscribe button. And then I need you guys to make sure you hit that notification bell, man. That notification bell rings bells. It makes you fully aware whenever I go live, whenever I drop content, whenever anything happens on this channel. That notification bell keeps you fully abreast. So make sure you guys lock in, hit the like button, make sure you are subscribed, whether you're a new subscriber, you're an OG subscriber, whatever it may be. I appreciate all the love, all the hate, all the well wishes, all the curses. I want all the smoke. That's the type of time we're on right now, because this is the season of redemption. This is the revenge season. This is the season of shutting up the doubters. This is the season of putting that pressure. You feel what I'm saying? So that's how we carrying it here. And I really do appreciate you guys for always being involved, man. This is a fun thing I do as much as I possibly can, and you guys make it worthwhile. So again, smash that like button. The like button is currency, and we're going to get right into the shenanigans. You know, by the way, I almost forgot. I have a special guest coming on later on. Yes, you guys, I am very, very busy. I'm tapping into my Rolodex. I'm tapping into my contacts, and I'm trying to make sure I give you guys great content. I have a special guest coming on. I know you guys saw that Glenn Irby interview. That was a really good one. Glenn Irby is the managing editor at USA Today Sports. He covers the Philadelphia Eagles and he covers the Baltimore Ravens. I hope you guys had a chance to go watch that interview. That's on the YouTube channel as well. Make sure you guys go check that out. And I know you guys saw my conversation, my high-level conversation with Simone Stanley, the lovely Simone Stanley, and the, how do you say, the tremendous, the illustrious Lord Brunson. You feel what I'm saying? Lord Brunson, Simone Stanley, they gave me a hell of a conversation. They really did it big on Chalk It Up Sports. So I really appreciate them for really investing in the content with me. I appreciate Glenn Irby for giving me the time of day as well. And also, you guys are really going to appreciate this guest that I have coming on. It's a surprise guest. You guys are familiar with him. He does great work in the city of Philadelphia, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. He knows his stuff. I love his approach to the game. I love his perspective. In my opinion, he keeps it real, and he's grinding, man. He's grinding, and I love everything he's doing. And he's just overall good dude. So I can't wait for this special guest to come on. He'll be on at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's also 12 p.m. Central time, 11 a.m. Mountain time, and 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I think that may be 9 or 8 a.m. in Hawaii. So wherever you guys are locking in, no matter where you are in the world, some of you guys are locked in on the Olympics. No matter where you are in the world, make sure you guys lock in on this conversation that we're going to have today with my very, very special guest. I can't wait to have him on. Now, enough with the pleasantries. Let's get right into the content here. You know, there were some press conferences going on today, and we're going to discuss those as well. But I want to talk about some of the young guys, right? I want to talk about some of the young guys like Jaylx Hunt, Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell, Jalen Carter, right? I want to talk about a lot of those young guys, and most of those young guys are on the defensive side of the ball, but let's include Cam Jurgens in that category as well. He's entering year 3, and he's going to be taking over for Jason Kelce. This is a big opportunity for him. So when I think about the Philadelphia Eagles' young core and what they've been able to establish, you have no choice but to be optimistic about where this team is and where they're going, right? Let's start with Jaylx Hunt. I've heard nothing but great things about Jaylx Hunt. I was reading an article earlier, and essentially they were saying that Jaylx Hunt has been really effective, especially taking advantage of the second team. He's really been dominant working with the second team defense. There's a chance that he may take on a larger role if everything goes well. Again, remember, Jaylx Hunt, he was drafted, I believe, in the 3rd round or the 4th round by the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to make sure I got that right here. Jaylx Hunt was drafted in the 3rd round, number 94 overall, edge rusher out of Houston Christian, former DB turned edge rusher / linebacker, put on a ton of weight in preparation for that role, and he was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. And so far, he's been making a real impact in training camp. There's been moments where he's really been taking it to the guys in front of him. He's been playing with a lot of speed, a lot of urgency, a lot of intensity, right? So I'm really fascinated to see what Jaylx Hunt can become, because when they drafted him, remember, he was deemed as a project, but he looked the part. The profile was spectacular, right? Physically, the athletic traits you saw, you fell in love with it. But fundamentally, technically, some deemed him as a project because of the transition from DB to edge rusher, and also because of the school he went to. Right, he started out in Ivy League at Brown University, and then he transferred to Houston Christian so he can continue to pursue football as his primary career. So a lot of us felt like maybe Jaylx Hunt wouldn't be ready this year. A lot of us felt that way. Some of us felt as though maybe Jaylx Hunt would be ready next year, especially playing behind Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Bryce Huff, right? Nolan Smith is definitely ahead of him because he was drafted the year before, and also Nolan is a first-round pick, so he has high expectations in and of himself. And we're going to talk about Nolan next. But Jaylx Hunt so far is making some splashes in training camp, and I believe he's starting to slowly earn the trust of Vic Fangio. I want to transition to Nolan Smith now. Nolan Smith is a player that's coming into year 2 with a ton of expectations. Like I said, Nolan Smith is a former first-round pick. I believe he was drafted 30th or 31st overall out of Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs. And we know what the Georgia Bulldogs were capable of. We know the kind of defense they had. We know the kind of talent they've been pumping out year after year after year in the NFL and how dominant they are. Nolan Smith's rookie year was anything but dominant. It was inconsistent, not just because of him, but also because the coaches didn't really get him on the field enough, in my humble opinion. I feel like Nolan Smith should have had more opportunities, and his stat line is pretty pedestrian. He only got 1 sack, and that came in that Miami Dolphins game. It was an important sack, don't get it twisted, but he pretty much came off the line untouched. Other than that, it kind of seems like Nolan Smith has struggled with balance. He struggled with going up against these larger and technically sound NFL caliber tackles. But I believe Nolan Smith is trending in the right direction. Nolan Smith had a really good day today. The word is that he beat Fred Johnson. Fred Johnson is a tackle on the NFL, a tackle on the Philadelphia Eagles. Word is he beat Fred Johnson twice and got 2 sacks. Sacks on Jalen Hurts, right? Because Fred Johnson got beat. Now, obviously, Fred Johnson is not the same caliber of player as a Lane Johnson or a Jordan Mailata, right? But it's a step in the right direction. And my biggest concern when it came to Nolan was, can he rely on more than just the speed, right? Can his pass rush moves, can he get stronger with his hands, right? Can he dictate the action? And Nolan Smith, it's reported that he's put on about, I believe, 10 to 15 more pounds of muscle. He took his conditioning and his preparation very seriously in the offseason. And on top of that, when he was working out in LA over the offseason, he was working out at the same facility as Aaron Rodgers. And he took the time out to really pick Aaron Rodgers' brain. And he wanted to work at that facility because it gave him an opportunity. It gave him an opportunity to be around people who weren't necessarily like him in terms of their position in the league, and it really allowed him to hone in and focus on what he's trying to accomplish. It kind of gave him tunnel vision, right? Being in a facility that you really didn't know anybody. Everybody's kind of focused on their own thing. No one's really like you. No one really probably is in the same line of work as you are. So it really gave you an opportunity to really focus. But Aaron Rodgers was at the same facility, and he got the opportunity to pick his brain. So hopefully he picked up something from one of the best quarterbacks that we've ever seen play the game. But again, Nolan Smith, a ton of expectations for Nolan Smith, right? Jalen Carter, another player that he's arguably maybe our pride and joy on defense. He's our crown jewel. There's a strong chance Jalen Carter can end up being one of the top tier D tackles in this league because of what he's been able to do his rookie year, the talent base he has, the athleticism, the gifts, the mentality, how ferocious he is at the point of attack. This is a big opportunity for Jalen Carter this season, entering year two. Him next to Jordan Davis, those two gentlemen have a ton of opportunity in front of them here, and I think Jalen Carter is going to go crazy this season, and he's been dominating training camp as well. He's been blowing up the defensive line, and Jalen Hurts has been doing a good job avoiding that and delivering the ball where it's supposed to be. But Jalen Carter, as far as his matchups, he's been doing very, very, very well. And like I said, these young players, they've been taking over training camp. I've heard nothing but good things about Quinyon Mitchell. I've heard nothing but good things about Isaiah Rodgers. I've heard great things about Jaylx Hunt. Who else we talking about here? I've heard great things about Cam Jurgens. Cam Jurgens has had a really good training camp. Landon Dickerson was at the podium today, and they asked him about Cam Jurgens' transition into being the primary center. And he said he loves how Cam Jurgens has approached it, how Cam Jurgens is completely focused on establishing his own legacy, and how he's really been communicating very well. His conditioning has been great. His confidence, his command of the huddle has been really, really great. And he just gives him a ton of credit for setting the standard and stepping into his new role or his larger role more confidently. So that's something you'd like to hear, right? Once again, the young guys are stepping up in a big way. And I believe they're stepping up in a big way because they understand the pedigree of this franchise. They understand the type of guys they have in front of them and potentially what it's like winning in this city, right? Jordan Davis went to the Super Bowl. He saw the Eagles at their highest of heights, right? Nakobe Dean, he was able to witness that environment, what it's like to win in this city, what it's like to get to that level in this city. You feel what I'm saying? Cam Jurgens, he was able to see what it's like to get to that level in this city. So overall, I think these young guys understand the assignment. Cooper DeJean, he's hurt right now, so we can't really give too much of a stern opinion on him. But still, he's a young guy that the Philadelphia Eagles are high on. And let me see if there's anybody I'm forgetting, because I want to make sure that I'm giving guys their just due here. So Grant Calcaterra, the word around town is Grant Calcaterra is having a really solid training camp. He's actually outplaying CJ Uzomah, somebody who I thought would actually be slotted into the tight end 2 role, right? But clearly I'm wrong here. Grant Calcaterra is outplaying CJ Uzomah every which way. It says here, and this is by way of my man Dave Zangaro. Dave Zangaro does great work for NBC Sports Philadelphia, covering the Philadelphia Eagles, and he pretty much indicated that Grant Calcaterra, he started off strong in spring, and it's pretty much carried over into the summer. He's the guy getting the reps as the tight end 2 and 12 personnel, and he's even getting some reps in 11 personnel when Dallas Goedert gets a break. Calcaterra also has looked really smooth catching the ball, has seen a lot of targets. He's a big part of this tight end 2 role. And blocking is also a big part of that role. And that's kind of been the knock on Grant Calcaterra because of his size. He's more so an athletic receiving like a vertical tight end. He doesn't really have much size, so it still remains to be seen where he is in terms of his blocking ability. But so far, when it comes to catching the ball, Grant Calcaterra has been solid for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Some players who started off slow and they're still trying to find their way. Anais Smith, he's kind of struggled a little bit. He's had some drops, and he still doesn't look quite comfortable yet as either a receiver or a punt returner. But there's been moments where once he got his hand on the ball, he's been able to be shifty, and you see that athleticism, you see his gifts. So he just has to continue to get comfortable, has to continue to lean into his role, hit that jug machine, and he'll be okay. Johnny Wilson, he started off a little rough, but Johnny Wilson started to find his groove, and I believe that started on day 3 of camp. So look, these young guys, they're going to have their ups, they're going to have their downs, but the fact of the matter is we're seeing progress, we're seeing commitment, we're seeing preparation, we're seeing that they're buying in to the overall goal. And I'm going to get to a lot of your comments, by the way. Just give me a second and let me cook. We're seeing a lot of these guys buying into the role they've been given. I've heard great things about Patrick Johnson, another young guy, right? Patrick Johnson, Jaylx Hunt, Nolan Smith, Nick Sirianni made it a point to call those guys out and give them their flowers, for bringing intensity, for bringing high effort to training camp every single day. So that's really, really good to hear. That's really, really good to hear. Tyler Steen. Tyler Steen is a player that's had so far a good OTAs, good training camp, but he did suffer a mild ankle sprain. So he's going to be out for maybe a few days, maybe up to a week. It all depends on his recovery and the rehab. And Mekhi Becton, who's relatively still a young player, has stepped into that right guard role. And they've been cross-training Mekhi Becton. They've been moving him at left tackle, right guard. He's been a Swiss Army knife for them, and he's been really leaning in and really taking on what Jeff Stoutland is putting down. And it also could be a big opportunity for Trevor Keegan to get more snaps, right? With the 1s and 2s. It all remains to be seen. But while Tyler Steen is out, some other young guys are going to get opportunities. But again, like I said, these young guys are really, really stepping into the roles. They're buying in. They believe in what they're being taught. All I hear is them speaking highly of, Kellen Moore, speaking highly of Nick Sirianni, speaking highly of Vic Fangio. This is the kind of things you want to hear. This is what you want to see. This is what you want to hear from your young guys, because this is your foundation. The problem with the Philadelphia Eagles at times is they don't hit in the draft, and then they're forced to overpay guys via free agency. And that's the problem with the Philadelphia Eagles, or what has been the problem for the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's not just the Philadelphia Eagles problem. There's a ton of teams who maybe draft a player or 2 or 3, and those players don't necessarily pan out to what they expected them to be. And then those teams have to outsource to free agency, and then it ends up taking a large toll on their cap because you have to overpay for guys like that, right? So when you draft well and you invest in the talent and you nurture the talent, you develop it, right? You put those guys in position to succeed, and you show confidence and belief, right? And they also bring their plate to the party, right? They come in prepared. They come in locked in, ready to work. When all those things coincide, when all those things start to marry each other, you're going to get a tremendous output from your young guys. And I think that's what we're getting here. I can't wait to see what Clint Hurt is able to pull out of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Milton Williams, right? A young veteran that doesn't get talked about enough. Milton Williams is in the contract year, and Milton Williams can really have a big season. It all remains to be seen, but he's going to have more opportunities, right? With guys retiring, Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, it leaves so much space for Cam Jurgens. It leaves so much space for, Milton and JC and JD. It gives them space to really step into their own and take their mentalities and their preparation and their leadership to the next level. So I'm excited about the young players. I'm excited about everything's to come. Now I'm going to get to your comments, and I really appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, whether you're an OG viewer or a new viewer. Make sure you guys are subscribed, and make sure you hit that like button. That like button is currency. It really helps the algorithms. It really helps YouTube push my product forward. And we're a team here. This is chalk it up mafia here. This is a family. So make sure you guys continue to stay engaged and continue to hold not only myself, but hold each other accountable. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We're all pushing towards the same goal here. Some of us may disagree as far as philosophy, but we all want the same thing here. So let's get to some of your comments. K. Robinson says, I don't know if that is true because they say the Cowboys draft well, yet they can't afford to pay their guys or get top talent in free agency. Well, that's because the Cowboys don't take care of business well. The Cowboys wait too long to pay their players, and then by the time they decide to pay them, they're overpaying, right? So the reality is when you draft well, the odds are you will spend significantly less extending your draftees than paying someone in free agency. It's universally known that during free agency, you're overpaying because you're at the mercy of the market and you're at the mercy of other players getting comparable contracts, and then you may have to beat that. So again, the Cowboys aren't the standard. The Cowboys aren't a team you want to compare or use as a metric when it comes to handling contracts and drafting, right? So again, the Cowboys, although they're a team that drafts is pretty solid, but the reality is they wait too long to pay guys, which puts them in a terrible position. The Philadelphia Eagles, on the other hand, they pay guys early and they bet on their guys. And the Philadelphia Eagles have always been on the winning side of that. And they've always not had to overpay guys because, perfect example, the Jalen Hurts contract, right? Jalen Hurts, he, by some people's estimation, was paid too early. I felt like he was paid right on time. You want to know why? Because for about a week and some change, Jalen Hurts was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Look at us now. We're a year and some change removed from that. And Jalen Hurts is now the seventh or eighth highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Right? Let me make sure I got that right here. I believe Jalen Hurts right now, as it stands right now, he's about the seventh or eighth highest paid quarterback in the league. Jalen Hurts is currently the eighth highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Just think about that. Joe Burrow, $55 million. Jordan Love, $55 million. Trevor Lawrence, $55. Tua, $53.1. Jared Goff, $53. Justin Herbert, $52.5. Lamar Jackson, $52 million. Jalen Hurts, $51 million. That Jalen Hurts contract is looking pretty good right now. Mac Main says Milton Williams is going to eat this year. No, I feel you on that. Also, by the way, if you guys are just hopping in, I have a special guest coming on in a few minutes. It's going to be really exciting, and I can't wait for you guys to hear in on this high-level conversation. It's going to be really good. Lorenzo says, we need consistent good drafts. I agree with you. Lorenzo also says they're actually getting good coaching this year. Drew Johnson was good, my friend. Hope all is well. King Eagle says, that's what I want. Our draft picks stepping up and accepting the challenges and winning the battles over the free agents that were brought in. So I'm encouraged by what the draft picks are doing. I'm with you on that. I'm very encouraged. My friend. What's good, flexing? Lorenzo also says Eli Rick's getting some run with the ones. Okay, that's good to hear. Let's see. All Eagles fly. What's going on? E Money says Eagles going 15-2. Woo! I like that number. We'll see though. I got them going 13-4. Lorenzo is expecting a big year from Nolan Smith. Yeah, I hope so because this is his role is going to increase, so he has to make the most of it. Austin, he says, I'm glad Nolan Smith is finally having his moment. We need him to take a step up this season. Absolutely. All we need is for it to translate to the regular season. Keisha White, what's going on? Philly flyover. Hope all is well. G Dragon 486. He says that Laura Brunson collaboration was fire. Hey, man, I really do appreciate you, man. Shout out to Laura Brunson. Shout out to Simone Stanley for blessing Chalk It Up Sports with their presence. Really means a lot to me. So, yeah, that was a dope conversation. If you guys haven't already, make sure you double back and check out my conversation with Simone Stanley and Lord Brunson. They both came on a few days ago as guests. They came on last week. And I got to tell you, it was a really dope conversation. So you want to make sure you're locked in on that. Mac Main said, "This time for church. Let's hear the gospel." I appreciate that, my man. What's going on, Chin? Hope all is well. So Dope King says, "What's good, Tone? You're on early on a Monday. LOL. Heard the defense was cooking today. Yeah, I heard good things too, man. I heard they were doing very well. Nolan Smith, Jaylx Hunt. I heard they were doing really well. So I'm excited about it. But yeah, man. I got a guest coming on in about 5 minutes. So that's why we're on at this time. And also, this is a pretty optimum time for me. It all varies. Sometimes I may be live in the evening. I may be live in the afternoon, mid afternoon. Sometimes I got to get in where I fit in, right? I got other responsibilities, so I try to get in where I fit in. Lorenzo says the Eagles tend to get ahead of the market. Absolutely. That's what makes Harry Roseman one of the best GMs in the league. He always gets ahead of the market. And that's what you're supposed to do, man. Big bang take little bang. So yeah, again, right? These young players, they've really been stepping up and really stepping into their own. I'm really excited about what I'm hearing about Jaylx Hunt. I'm really excited about what I'm hearing about Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Cam Jurgens, Grant Calcaterra. It's been really cool. It's been really cool hearing that these young guys are taking their opportunity seriously. Jordan Davis. Yo, speaking of Jordan Davis cut his hair. Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that pic or that photo on Twitter? Jordan Davis cut his hair. He cut his locks off. Yo, I didn't expect that, to be quite honest with you. But hey, sometimes when you cut your hair, it's freeing. Like when I started shaving my head, when I decided to rock the baldy, it's freeing. It feels so good. You feel what I'm saying? So shout out to Jordan Davis, man. It is going to look a little weird. Yes, K. Robinson. I love that perspective, right? It's a new beginning. And I don't know, sometimes when players cut their hair, sometimes when people cut their hair, their career go to another level. That's just the reality, man. Some players cut their hair and it goes to another level. So shout out to Jordan Davis, man. I'm really excited to see what Jordan Davis brings to the table, especially entering year 3. And it's going to be really crucial, especially with the Philadelphia Eagles having to make a decision about his 5th-year option. But, you guys, I mentioned that I had and have a very special guest coming on. And this gentleman is, let me say it this way. I'm so grateful for this gentleman for taking the time out. He's a very, very busy man. He's a family man. He's newly married. And I know what that's like when the wife is pulling you in so many directions, left, right, up, down. I need you to sign off on this. Hey, what color are these drapes? Do you like this one or that one? Oh, man. But let's get right to it, right? This brother, a trial attorney in the state of New Jersey and Pennsylvania with over 15 years of experience in law, co-founder of Grungo and Colarulo and member of Brown, Novick, and Colarulo law firms. He's been recognized by Super Lawyers magazine as a rising star in the field of personal injury law for 5 consecutive years from 2014 to 2018. I'm telling you, this man knows his stuff. And now he's found his new act. He's entering the second act, the second phase of his career. He said, you know what? Law, I've gotten the most out of that. Now it's time to lay down the law and let people know what's really going on with these Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this man is a sports talk host for 97.5 The Fanatic, and he's the host of the Legal Hands to the Face podcast, covering your Philadelphia Eagles. The man that always knows what to say and always get the deal done, Bill Colarulo. Billy, what's going on, my friend?
All good, man. What an intro, Tone.
Of course. Listen, I got to take care of my people. I think it's really important that when you invite people into your home, you make sure you have a clean house, right? The dishes are washed. The dog has a bath. Food is already in the fridge in case they're thirsty. It's important to make sure your guests are really comfortable when they come in. You make them feel good.
Well, great hype man right there. But yeah, so I used to be a lawyer, man. I sold the business and went all in on the Philly sports talk dream. So it's been good so far. Been with the Fanatic for a few months now, making some traction. But thank God our Eagles are back, because I was getting sick and tired of rehashing everything that happened last year, and it was all about the collapse and do Sirianni and Hurts get along. Now we can finally look forward and close the book on what happened last season. But it's good to see you, Tone. I haven't seen you in a while, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's funny. I was on Twitter and I was thinking to myself, yo, let me tap in with Bill. Bill's doing amazing work. And you're right, it has been about a few months, and you've been doing great work on 97.5 The Fanatic. They've had you everywhere. Your podcast is thriving. And I just think it's dope that you've made this transition. And I remember when we first started working together, and I loved your approach. I felt like you had the voice. I felt like you had the energy. Your knowledge was there. And I just feel like it's important to cultivate these relationships, and I just love what you're doing, my friend. So I had to give you your flowers. And also, again, I wanted to bring you on. And when you respond right away, I thought to myself, wow, thank you, Bill. So, let's get right into it, man. Let's not waste any time. You brought up something really interesting, right? Briefly, the drama that was circulating after the end of the season last year. And then even entering this season, the drama tried to make its way in, especially between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. People tried to weave this thread of dissension between those two gentlemen, but I want to get your perspective on that, right? Were you buying those rumors? Was there anything that you can say about that situation that gives you any perspective one way or the other?
I thought it was overblown a little bit, but then I will be honest, when mandatory minicamp came around and Jalen Hurts spoke to the media and they asked him basically a softball question where it would have been very easy for him to say something positive about Nick Sirianni, he didn't do it. And I'm thinking, oh, man, what the hell is going on? So I did reach out to a few people, and everything I heard was, no, they're fine. That last year, obviously, when people are losing, there's going to be some drama mixed in across the board because nobody likes winning. But from what I was told, a lot of what happened last season wasn't necessarily because of Hurts and Sirianni not seeing eye to eye, that there were other issues at play, young coordinators, Sirianni's offense, Johnson having to call those plays. So, look, I don't think anybody likes losing, and I think that's what you saw creep in. But from what I'm hearing from multiple people, Sirianni and Hurts are fine. Now, does that mean that they're best friends? No. I don't think they're going out and they're hanging out, but I don't need that from my head coach and my quarterback. What I need is for them to respect one another. I don't need them to like each other. I just need them to respect each other. And as long as you have that respect and they start winning games, I think everything's going to be fine. Where I do have my slight concerns, though, if this team comes out to a little bit of a slow start, are they able to handle that? Are they going to be able to get through those choppy waters? And I think that's something they couldn't handle last year for a host of reasons. I don't think it was just on Sirianni. I think there were a lot of things at play last year. But if this team hits a little bit of a bumpy road this year, how do they handle that? But let's hope we don't find out. Maybe they start winning right away and everything's copacetic.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's funny. I think one of the reasons why they really struggled as well, especially on offense, just because when you watched it, you see the talent, but it just seemed like everything was laborious. It felt like everything was a struggle. They had to fight for every single yard, every single first down. And there was a lack of creativity there. So I think a lot of those players started to become frustrated with what they were being asked to do. And when a team would counter that, they had no answer. And that can frustrate anybody, right? It's like boxing, right? If this boxer continue with that same punch and your corner's like, listen, I don't know what to do. And then the boxer doesn't know what to do. Everybody's frustrated, and then that's how you lose matches, right? But I think going into the season, right, that's why Kellen Moore is here. He brings that creativity, that extra element to the offense, right? And even if Kellen Moore isn't on his A game with this kind of talent, if he's on his B game, I believe Kellen Moore can help this Philadelphia Eagles team really maximize and optimize that talent. What's your perspective on Kellen Moore and his potential impact with Jalen Hurts and their overall chemistry?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, because even last year, even though everything looked labored and I don't think the coaching was great, I don't think Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni did a good enough job, they still finished top 7 in points scored, which is just mind-blowing when you think about it, because it didn't look right, didn't pass the eye test. But Kellen Moore spoke on Saturday morning, and what he said, I absolutely loved, because he talked about how they're building this offense and Jalen Hurts has input in the offense that's being built. He also talked about Jalen Hurts' running ability and how that's going to be something they try to use to their advantage. Talked about that +1 when you have a quarterback who can run the football. I think a lot of times coordinators, head coaches, they make that mistake of trying to fit players into their system as opposed to building their system around their players' skills. Kellen Moore, I was confident was going to do that because he's a smart coordinator, and now he's saying that. The fact that they're building this offense together with Jalen, and they're looking back at some of the things that this offense did well, and he talked about on Saturday also, Kellen Moore, seeing some of the things they did well, and then maybe building some things off of that, some other reads off of it. To me, that's going to be brilliant, because when Sirianni spoke at the end of the season, he mentioned how the offense got stale, and you just mentioned that as well. No fresh ideas. Well, now you're going to take an offense that, even though it looked ugly at times last year, has had a lot of success in the last 3 seasons. There's a reason why Hurts was an MVP candidate in 2022 and for a majority of 2023. People forget that. He was the #1 odds for MVP up until week 12 last season.
Yes.
You also have A.J. Brown, sits at #1 and #2 in franchise history in receiving yards in a single season. It wasn't all bad over the last 2 years with Sirianni at the helm. But now you bring in Kellen Moore, who's a smart offensive mind, who's done it before, who's called plays in this league for a #1 offense when he was in Dallas. And you bring all of that together. I'm excited for what this offense can be. And we didn't even talk about the fact that you've added Saquon Barkley to this running back room. So I'm right there with you. I think that Hurts and Kellen Moore are going to be on the same page, because Jalen Hurts has mentioned a couple of times now trying to make this offense mine. He said it at mandatory minicamp. He said it again on Wednesday after the first practice, making this offense mine. That's what I love. Kellen Moore's building an offense that Jalen Hurts. It's his. It's not Kellen Moore's offense and it's, hey, Jalen, you need to fit this scheme. To me, that's the recipe for success.
I love what you're saying, especially when it comes to Jalen Hurts' approach, right? And how he's spoken on many different occasions that this is a new offense. We're building this thing from scratch, essentially. And there's going to be elements from the past, but overall, they're trying to really mold this thing around his skill set. Another thing that Jalen Hurts has kind of been preaching so far throughout, training camp, and it's been this common thread, and he said it in so many different occasions, but in different ways. And it really resonated with me when he had this conversation with Charles Davis and Mike Garafolo. They were at the facility, and they kind of asked him about the talent on the team and where they could potentially go, how good they can be, things of that nature. And he kind of stopped him and said, "Listen, we're talented. We were talented last year. We were talented the year before that." And I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, "Yeah, we're talented, but it's not sustainable. It's not enough.
Talent's only going to get you so far," he said.
Yes, this is the NFL. Everyone is talented. So what separates you from the rest, right? He was essentially saying, great teams win championships, not talented ones, right? What's your perspective on that, right?
Yeah, and he's also said a few times, building relationships. That seems to be a common theme as well, because when he was talking about talent only gets you so far, he did mention, teams win championships, as you said. And then he also talked about building relationships with the young wide receivers on this team. He cited to the wild card game against Tampa saying, look, A.J. Brown wasn't there. I didn't have as good of a relationship with Olamide Zaccheaus and Julio Jones. That's why I'm making it a focus to try to grow with these young receivers. That's why he pulled them all together and they did those off-season workouts together. He's talked about building the relationship with Kellen Moore. He also mentioned building a relationship with new center Cam Jurgens. So I think this team, and especially Jalen Hurts, understands that side of things, because what you did here last year, Jeff McClain reported it, Derek Gunn, our buddy, reported it. The team wanted Jalen to be a better leader, a more vocal leader, and bring some players together. And I think he's taken that and is really trying to grow in his leadership. And that's why you've seen that emphasis on building these relationships and building a team, quote unquote, because talent's only going to get you so far. That offense was extremely talented last year. It didn't matter. Now, I will say, I don't think that defense had anywhere near enough talent last year. And that's still a question this season. Do they have enough talent? But I am excited about what I've heard. And look, I'm talking about Jalen Hurts as a leader. I love what I've heard from Devin White so far on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not sold on Devin White. I didn't necessarily love the move when they got him because clearly he was benched last year in Tampa for a reason. But he's come in here and he seems like he's got the right attitude. I mean, look, he's starting a group chat with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, and he titles it accountability. I love that from a new guy coming in because that defense does need some leadership. You've lost Fletcher Cox. You have Brandon Graham in his swan song of a season. Who's going to step up and lead that defense? So I really like what I heard from Devin White, too.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to talk to you about the defense. I want to stay on offense just a little bit longer. We briefly touched on Saquon Barkley, right? And part of me still can't believe that he's a Philadelphia Eagle. It's really it's strange because even when the news or the rumors rather were percolating, I said to myself, yeah, right. I'm not buying that not one bit. It's free agency. Everyone's throwing their own rumors around. But when it came across the news wire as legit, I thought to myself, wow.
Dude,
what is that? What does that look like?
I was actually on the Fanatic. I was on the best show ever on the Fanatic.
So you were live when this happened?
Live on the air, and I broke the news. We hit the breaking news button.
Walk me through that.
I got to announce it, and we're like, no way. Like, this can't be real. I'm like trying to get confirmation. I'm going to, Rappaport and Shefty and trying to see if this is real because I'm right there with you. I didn't think you heard the rumblings leading into free agency that they were interested, but it just didn't seem to fit what they've done in the past. But when you really take a step back, it was very smart on their part because the wide receiver market blew up. You saw guys like Darnell Mooney getting $40 million, and it was basically, wait, we can pay Saquon Barkley less than we're paying a Darnell Mooney, less than what some of these wide receiver threes who haven't done anything in their career are getting. Let's just look at this as another weapon. And Saquon is going to be a part of the passing game. Kellen Moore, I keep going back to what he talked about on Saturday, Tone. He talked about how not only are the running backs going to be a part of the passing game for those checkdowns against the blitz and getting them horizontally. What I loved is he said we're also going to get them vertical because now you design a play where you get Saquon Barkley on a slower linebacker and you have him run that vertical or run that wheel route. You're talking about those explosive plays, man, with your running back that we haven't really seen in the passing game under Sirianni and Hurts. In the last 3 years, Sirianni and Hurts have never had a running back have more than 39 catches in a season. It was DeAndre Swift last year. It's the most they've ever had a running back have. Kellen Moore, in his 5 years as a coordinator, has never had a lead running back have less than 39. He usually has guys in the 50s. Pollard and Zeke combined for 86 catches 1 year when he was in Dallas. So I do expect Saquon Barkley and even Kenny Gainwell to be a part of that passing game. And I think that could go a long way in helping Jalen against the blitz, an area they've really struggled in the past where, hey, take the little check down to Saquon. Let him pick up 5 yards, maybe more. But it's better than a 10-yard loss on a sack.
Let me ask you this, right? The Saquon Barkley effect is very real. I do anticipate a Christian McCaffrey-esque impact. But who on this offense, not named Jalen Hurts, do you believe will benefit the most from having a guy like Saquon Barkley creating space for him?
It's hard to pick AJ or Devontae because I think they already have had big seasons. I do think they'll be positively impacted because you're going to have to put some attention on the running game with Saquon back there, especially in that passing game, those short and intermediate routes. But if I'm picking someone that I really expect to benefit the most, it's Dallas Goedert. Because he's a player we keep waiting on. So it's almost like every year we're like, this is the year Dallas Goedert breaks out. This is the year Dallas Goedert breaks out. Injuries have affected it at times. But I do expect Dallas Goedert now, when you have a defense that's going to have to give so much attention to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley, that should open up a lot for Dallas Goedert. And what I'm hoping they do with him, I just talked about verticals with the running backs. What I hated last season is every single time Dallas Goedert got the ball in his hands, it felt like he was going horizontally towards the sidelines.
Yes.
They never got him the ball in space to let him pick up that yards after catch that he's so good at. So I do expect Kellen Moore to design plays to get the ball into Dallas Goedert's hands in the middle of the field and then letting him pick up those yards. So I'm going to go with Goddard having the biggest impact from a Saquon Barkley.
Okay. My last question about the offense. We don't really talk about the offensive line that much because we just expect them to be great and we expect them to be top tier as they're currently built. And you lose Jason Kelsey, Cam Jurgens steps into the role as your primary center, and still this offensive line is deemed by many as still being top 5, bare minimum top 5, right? And can get better. And the depth, Mekhi Becton, right? You draft Trevor Keegan out of Michigan. You pick up Matt Hennessy, right? Give me your perspective on this offensive line. Do you expect any growing pains with Cam Jurgens in particular?
I actually think, and I said this before, I think the offensive line can be even better this season than what they were last year. Now, I understand losing a legend at center is a big loss. No one's ever going to replace Jason Kelsey. But if you look at the offensive line as a whole, last season, Jordan Mailata at left tackle, Landon Dickerson at left guard. I expect both of those guys to be better this year than they were last year. They've only shown growth every year in the NFL. I expect another leap forward from both of them. So do the Eagles. It's why they extended them and gave them those big contracts. So you expect the left side of the line to be better this year than they were last year. Well, then let's look at the right side of the line. You have Lane Johnson. As long as he's healthy, he's Lane Johnson. He's one of the best to ever do it at the right tackle position. But now look at the right guard. I felt like Cam Jurgens last year was up and down at an unnatural position for him. He's a center. So right guard, even when Sua Opeta came in, thought it was up and down play. Tyler Steen in his one game didn't play very well. That position is the key for me on how good this offensive line can be. Because if Mekhi Becton wins the job, or Tyler Steen, who now is out with an ankle injury, if he wins the job, if you get better right guard play, think about your offensive line now. You're going to have better left tackle and left guard play simply because Mailata and Dickerson are going to get better another year with Stoutland. You're going to have better right side of the line play because Lane Johnson's Lane Johnson, but your right guard will be better than last year. And now you're moving Cam Jurgens to his natural position. I don't expect him to be Jason Kelsey, but what I've seen from Cam Jurgens, and I know it was only the preseason, but you go back 2 preseasons ago, Kelsey missed the whole preseason, and Jurgens ran with the ones his rookie year. The guy looked unbelievable getting to that second level, doing things similar to what Kelsey has done. So you're going to get solid play at center. I'm not worried about that. But for me, if that right guard position is better than what you got last year, which I don't think is hard to do, I think you have a better offensive line this year than you even had in 23.
Yeah, and they've invested a lot of money on that left side as well. I mean, a lot of got re-upped for his, I guess technically his 3rd contract, but his 2nd extension. Landon Dickerson got his 1st extension. Both those guys are, I believe, top 5 paid at the position. And in my humble opinion, I think they're top 5 talent-wise at the position as well. That's just my opinion. But yeah, man, this offensive line definitely has potential to be great. They've already been great, but they can just, maintain that narrative. It's going to be really exciting to see what Saquon Barkley can do with this offensive line, the best offensive line he's ever had in his career. Let's transition to the defensive side of the ball. Now, this is where we start to get a little bit into the controversy and the drama here. I'm sure you saw James Bradberry's press conference.
Yep.
And it was really fascinating to me. One thing I will say, I give James Bradberry credit for always being a professional and for being very transparent in where he is in this process with the Philadelphia Eagles. But they asked him, obviously, why move the safety? Whose decision was that? He says it was his.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where I stand with that, but he was very honest about, hey, that season was bad. I knew they would replenish the cornerback position because I played bad. The cornerback room is loaded. The safety room already has 2 projected starters. I'm going to fight for as long as I'm on this team. Give me your estimation or your perspective of that James Bradberry press conference, and where do you think he is, and where do you think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go from here?
Everything you hear about James Bradberry is he's very well liked in the locker room. He's a good guy. He's a good teammate. So I understood why it made sense keeping him around, especially because if you tried to move on from him prior to June 1st, the cap hit was just not something you were going to take. It was too big of a dead cap. But once you had to wait until June 1st, it made sense. You hold on to James Bradberry. You bring him back into camp. He's not going to cause any problems. He's not a bad teammate. And maybe, like what you're already seeing around the league, some teams suffer injuries to their cornerback room and they become desperate and they think, hey, he was an all-pro 2 years ago. Maybe we can bring him in here and he can have an impact. So it made sense to keep him. So he asked to get some playing time at safety. He's a smart dude. I think he realizes that's an easier path because you got 14 corners vying for only 7 spots, and a lot of them are locks. Slay's coming back. Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell are clearly locks. Keely Ringo is a lock. The way Isaiah Rodgers has been playing, he's a lock. And you need players who can also play that nickel corner position. But here's where James Bradberry really struggled. He's not a special teamer. So for him to make this team as a cornerback who's not going to be a starter, you got to be able to play special teams. James Bradberry hasn't really played special teams throughout his career. So I think he saw the writing on the wall. What was the weakest position this team had as far as depth? It was safety. All you have is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship. Outside of those two guys, Sidney Brown starting the year on the physically unable to perform list. The other guys, Tristan McCullum, Mekhi Gardner.
Yeah, and Mekhi Gardner he transitioned from corner to safety as well because maybe he sees the writing on the wall that I need to make this roster somehow.
But both of those guys do play special teams, and they've also been given some burn to Avonte Maddox back there. But here's what's interesting. I would have thought it was a long shot for James Bradberry to make this team for the reasons that I just said. Doesn't play special teams. There's a lot of corners. But now you look at what's going on. Sidney Brown on the physically unable to perform list, and Cooper DeJean out for 3 weeks with a hamstring. Well, what did that do? Look at the ripple effect. Avonte Maddox, who was getting some playing time at safety, is now basically your starting nickel corner. So there is a path that James Bradberry could make this team at safety. I still think it's a relative long shot, but I see a scenario where they start the year with Sidney Brown on the PUP list, and you have Cooper DeJean still trying to learn this defense. So Avonte Maddox is your starting nickel corner, and that leaves you with James Bradberry as one of your backup safeties. But I do want to see him at least get some special teams play in the preseason because you can't have him on your active roster if he can't play special teams. But I still think if I'm putting money on it, I would still say James Bradberry's not here as part of the 53-man roster. Maybe Howie Roseman can get a team to trade something, even if it's a 6th or 7th round draft pick, get the contract off your hands. It makes sense. But having him come in here and at least give his shot at safety, I was okay with. But Fangio did say, look, the players who can do it, it's very, very rare. And I don't know if you saw, Tone, you may have been on, but Avonte Maddox spoke today.
Yes, he did.
And they asked Avonte Maddox the same question. They said, look, Vic Fangio said moving from corner to safety is very difficult. And Avonte said, maybe for an outside corner, but I've played nickel. So it's a very similar, very easy transition because I'm already involved in the run game, being that close to the line of scrimmage at nickel. It's a lot of the same reads. It's an easier transition for me from nickel to safety than it is for James Bradberry, who's been primarily an outside corner his whole career.
That was very insightful by Avonte Maddox because that doesn't get talked about. It doesn't get talked about enough, right? The nickel version of transitioning from that spot to a safety, right? Stand on the safety spot a little longer. Reed Blankenship, James Bradberry said they already have 2 starters at safety, right? And although Reed Blankenship is that guy kind of by default, some people are hot and cold on Reed Blankenship. But regardless, the Philadelphia Eagles clearly like him because they gave him an additional year on his current contract.
Which they didn't have to do.
Yeah, which they didn't have to do. Exactly. They did not have to do that. He's an undrafted guy. They did not have to do that. I'm glad you said that. Which in turn makes me believe they really like that player and they love what they're seeing from him. What do you think is the next step in Reed Blankenship's development as a safety? And again, just for context, he's entering year 3. So what's your perspective on Reed Blankenship standing with this team and how good he could potentially be?
I think we've seen a lot of good from Reed. It's definitely been up and down in his first 2 seasons, but you remember he comes in his rookie year because of the injury to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. First game, reads Aaron Rodgers and makes an interception. Showed me this kid's a smart kid with a lot of instincts, able to jump that route on one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But last year, a little bit of up and down, My major concern with Reed is just like it is with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is we haven't seen him do it for a full 17-game season. Injuries have hurt Reed Blankenship as well. He hasn't played 17 games. So I want to see another year of growth, but I do think sometimes we don't have patience in this city. You mentioned he's only entering the third year. Guy was undrafted out of college, and you look at what he's already done in 2 seasons. So I think Reed Blankenship can grow into being a very good safety in this league. I think it hurt him a little bit last year as well that the safety position next to him was a revolving door. Justin Evans got some playing time. Well, he finished the season like he does every year on IR. Terrell Edmonds gets playing time. He showed he was so bad they had to trade him in that exchange with the Titans for Kevin Byard. And then Byard comes in here, and he clearly had lost a step. They didn't bring him back this year. So if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson stays healthy and Reed Blankenship stays healthy, I do expect a very strong season from Reed simply because he's going to have that continuity with the safety next to him. And everything we're hearing about Vic Fangio and this defensive coaching staff that they put together is that these guys are great teachers. I think there was an issue on communication last year, players not knowing where they were supposed to be. Just think about how much quicker you can get somewhere when you know where you're supposed to go. So I'm not willing to rule out Reed Blankenship. Clearly the Eagles weren't either. They gave him this extension. I have high expectations for him this year, and I'm hoping he delivers.
Yeah, I agree. Staying on Vic Fangio, right? He had a press conference a couple of days ago or over the weekend, I believe, where he had a very interesting perspective on Bryce Huff and just his overall evaluation of his team and how he handles the hierarchy of who plays, who doesn't, things like that. And he made it very clear that I don't care how much you get paid, where you were drafted. I don't care how long you've been in the league. Is either you could play or you can't.
I love that.
It's either I could trust you or I can't. And I love that perspective because we've kind of been missing that over the past handful of seasons, right? Especially under the Nick Sirianni regime. It just seems as though whoever they draft, hey, if they drafted you, you got to play. Last year we were screaming to the top of our lungs, hey, listen, Nicholas Morrow, he's kind of outplaying the Kobe. Let's not take him off the field. But lo and behold, that kind of situation did happen. But getting back to the present, Vic Fangio this is a democracy here. And he's making it very clear that, hey, you got to earn it. point blank, period. No one is being handed anything. And then the Bryce Huff aspect of it, how he's talented enough to do what we want, but he's not quite there yet. But we think he will be. Where did your mind go when you heard his perspective on Bryce Huff and his perspective on how he handles who makes this roster, who doesn't, who plays, who doesn't?
I love Fangio's honesty. I do. I think that's, for us especially who talk sports, it's freaking awesome because you remember the Andy Reid press conferences where you would get absolutely nothing from him. So it's great that Fangio gives us exactly how he's thinking. And I do love that it doesn't matter where you were drafted, we're going to play the best players. And when he said, look, I'm not going to play a first-round rookie just because they were a first-round rookie. If we were an expansion team, maybe we would, but we got bigger goals here. Yeah, this is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. So you play the best players available. And he was honest about Bryce Huff. I didn't love that answer because you projected a lot when Howie Roseman decided to pay Bryce Huff and then turn around and trade Hassan Reddick, which does look like the smart move now that Reddick, again, didn't report to Jets practice today. That's a whole headache that Eagles don't have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me a little concerned. Well, what do they really think? But at the same time, think about if he did the other way. Comes in, it's the first day of training camp, second day of training camp, and it's Bryce Huff is exactly where we need him to be. The guy doesn't have to work on anything. To me, this is motivating. Look, he's got all the skills. We just need to see him do it now. Could he do it today? No. But we're going to get him there because he's going to practice hard. He's going to study hard. He's going to meet and go over everything we need him to do, and then he'll be there. So I understand that aspect of it as well. And not that Fangio wasn't being honest, but it was the second day of training camp. He needs to grow. But I will say this, for me, outside of Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff is the most important player on that defense, in my opinion, because you need him to be the guy you thought you were getting when you signed him in free agency. He has to be able to play more than 400 snaps. You traded away Reddick, who not only had double-digit sacks 2 years in a row, he played over 800 snaps 2 years in a row. You have to replace that, not even the production, just the reps you got to replace.
Yes.
And yes, we're hopeful Nolan Smith steps up this year as well. But last year, because Nolan Smith couldn't get on the field, because you cut Derek Barnett, which I understood at the time, it forced Josh Sweat to also play 800 snaps. So you had Reddick playing over 800, Sweat playing over 800. Sweat couldn't do it. You saw him. He hit a wall down the stretch.
He's never done it before, so it was insane.
So he hit a wall. I think he went 8 straight games to end the year without a sack. So those reps need to be taken on by someone, and I think it'll be a combination between Huff and Nolan Smith because Sweat can't play as many as he did last year, and you're replacing Reddick's reps. But at the same time, you do need to get after the quarterback because we learned in 2022, number one pass defense. Why? Because you had 70 sacks. Last year, your sacks dropped.
That'll do something.
I think they had 43 last year, if my memory's right.
Yeah.
And you saw your pass defense go from number 1 to number 31. So that's why I think Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff are my 2 most important players. If they dominate this year, the ripple effect throughout the whole defense will make this a lot better of a defense than you saw last season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You guys are locked in on Chalking Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I'm here with my man, Bill Colarulo. Make sure you guys continue to smash that like button. Make sure you guys continue to like it on what he's doing as well. Bill, I really appreciate the time you've been giving me here. I got a couple more for you if you can swing it. Just stand on the defensive side, right? You brought up, Jalen Carter, right? And that makes me think about Jordan Davis and just that overall defensive line, right? Nolan Smith, Jaylx Hunt is even starting to show flashes in training camp. Nolan Smith got 2 sacks, quote unquote, and beating Fred Johnson. But it seems like these young guys are starting to really take on the responsibility of being the guys now, especially with Fletcher Cox not being here. Speak on how important it is for guys like Nolan Smith, Jaylx Hunt, right? Even Milton Williams, Jordan Davis. Speak on the importance of those guys really hitting their stride, especially given the fact that they're going to be the OGs on this line now.
Yeah, I just talked about Hassan Reddick played over 800 snaps. Well, Fletcher Cox played a lot of reps last year as well, playing some of the best football of his career. If Fletcher Cox wanted to come back this year, I think there would have been 32 teams who would have been lining up for his services. That's how high of a level Fletcher was still playing. So, yeah, it's not only on Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis has to show he was worthy of that first-round pick. Milton Williams is a guy that I have been very high on. I'm surprised. You look at all of the other players who were eligible for new contracts that the Eagles want to keep. They got the deals done. Milton Williams, final year of his rookie deal. This is his 4th season, no contract extension. So I think he's betting on himself this year. I think Milton Williams probably could have got the extension because I do think he's that good. I think he looked at this defensive line and said, I'm going to get a lot more reps with Cox now retiring. I'm betting on myself. So I expect Milton Williams to have a big season.
Wait, real quick. Jordan Davis. Real quick. I'm so sorry. Real quick. So you think they made him an offer and he said, not quite.
I would think, knowing the way they do business, and this is not with any inside information, just the way they've done things in the past.
Okay.
Knowing the way the Eagles do business, they try to lock these guys up. They took care of everybody this year. Milton Williams, if he has a strong season, is going to get paid in the offseason. If you have a defensive tackle who can dominate on the interior, he's going to get paid.
They're getting so much money now, Bill. They're getting so much more money now. The DT position is at a surplus in terms of the cash they're getting now.
So I would have thought they would have got that done. So we'll see. That was the player I thought would have been the contract before. Because, look, we talked about Reed Blankenship. They didn't have to pay him. He's not in the final year of his deal. They got it done. Devontae Smith, I understood why they wanted to get it done before the wide receiver market blew up. But they still had his final year. They had the 5th-year option because he was a first-round pick. So it wasn't as necessary as far as losing the player. But I understand why they got it done. They got Dickerson done. They got Mailata done. They even took care of their punter, their long snapper, their kicker. Why not take care of Milton Williams? So to me, it signaled because I do think they're high on Milton Williams. To me, it signaled he wants to bet on himself because he's going to get paid more if he proves himself this season. So I think all of those tackles have to step up on the defensive line. And you mentioned Nolan Smith. Absolutely needs to play more. He only played 188 snaps last year, and he looked lost at times. So they absolutely have to get more from Nolan Smith. He's come in, said he put on 7 pounds of muscle. He says all the right things. You listen to his press conferences, he sounds like he could be a future captain. Well, all that's great. You got to do it on the field. And I don't judge anybody by their rookie season, but his rookie season was a major disappointment. I was actually, when they were in the draft, I was saying going into the draft 2 years ago, if they couldn't get Carter at 10, I wanted to see them take Nolan Smith at 10. And then they trade up at 9 to take Carter, and Nolan Smith falls to them all the way at 30. I thought that was the steal of the draft. Right. And you just didn't see it last year. So I have to see it this year from Nolan Smith. And that's the one area, though, that has me excited is you look at this defense, and there's no guarantees anywhere, maybe outside of Jalen Carter at D tackle, but we have to see him do it for a 17-game season. There's no guarantees with this defense, but the upside certainly there. The ceiling is a lot higher than what it was last year because of guys like Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff. Well, what if they do grow into being every down players that can dominate the line of scrimmage? What if Jordan Davis does show he was worthy of the first-round draft pick? What if Milton Williams improves again in year 4 like he's done every single season? And then to the linebackers, Devin White, Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond. What if these guys show that they can really play at a high level, and now you have an improved secondary? I think the ceiling is massively higher this year than what it was last year. But again, none of it's going to matter if they don't do it, right? It's all ifs right now. It's a bunch of question marks. We have to turn to exclamation points.
Absolutely. A final question, Bill. Once again, I really do appreciate the time you've given me thus far. Let me ask you a question here. If you had to bet on one of these two players, right, winning the position battle, who would you bet on? Would you bet on Paris Campbell? Would you bet on the likelihood of Paris Campbell winning wide receiver 3? Or would you bet on the likelihood of Nakobe Dean winning that linebacker spot opposite Devin White? What's the best bet for you?
That's a good question, man. That is a good question because I was like everybody else. When Vic Fangio spoke for the first time in May and he got asked about the linebacker position and the first name he said was Zach Bond, I thought, okay, he just threw out that name because he was just thinking of players and he didn't really know anybody yet. But then he did it again. And then they go out in first day of training camp and your starting linebackers are Devin White and Zach Bond. And then you've seen it pretty much all week now. Devin White, Zach Bond. They're mixing in the Nakobe Dean. But it's a big change from last year, Tone, because you remember they appointed him right away. Nakobe Dean was your starting linebacker last year. Put the green dot on him. He was the guy. Well, this year they're making him earn it. And that's the one question I have. Are they making him earn it, or do they really think Zach Bond is the better option? I still believe, and maybe this is just because I'm going back to his college days at Georgia, and he spoke today as well, and I liked what he said. He said, shorts and T-shirts are cute, but we play football in pads. And we'll see tomorrow talking about how they need to set the tone at the linebacker room. So I love that. And no one ever questions. Nakobe can be a leader, but you got to be on the field to lead. So I still go back to his college days when he was the alpha male on one of the greatest defenses we've ever seen at Georgia. So I think it's going to be Nakobe Dean. So I think you're going to have Devin White and Nakobe. So to answer your question, I think Paris Campbell is going to win that wide receiver 3 job with one caveat. I'm not sure Howie Roseman's done adding pieces to this roster. And if you listen to what Howie Roseman said at his first press conference, he talked about they're going to have a close eye on the wide receiver 3 room. He also talked about how they're always looking to improve the roster. If it's not Paris Campbell, I would not be shocked if they went and brought somebody in. I don't know who it would be, but to win that job. But Campbell does have me a little bit intrigued because if you look at his numbers from 2 years ago in Indianapolis, played all 17 games, 63 catches, 623 yards. Last year, Quez Watkins, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Julio Jones, who all took turns at that wide receiver 3, they combined for 380 yards. So if you can get that level of production from a Paris Campbell at the wide receiver 3, I'll take it. But then last year, was it because he was in New York with a terrible quarterback? He only had 20 catches for 100 yards, only played 12 games. So what version of Paris Campbell are you going to get? And I see one of the commenters is spot on, big picking. Campbell has the connection with Nick Sirianni from the time in Indianapolis. So I think it's more likely than to answer your question that it's Nakobe Dean, simply because I think they may add someone, but I think both of those guys may be starters week 1.
If I could sneak one last one in on, you mentioned Howie Roseman potentially not being done with adding to this roster, right? And he's made that very known every single year. At least
he's added late in years before.
Yeah, CJ GJ, he added late. James Bradberry, he added late. And Dominic Sue and Linval were like mid-season additions, right?
Ronald Darby back in the Super Bowl
Ronald
year.
Darby, great point.
Late.
Great point.
Yeah.
You mentioned wide receiver potentially them adding there. Is there any position on the defensive side where you anticipate them adding a player? Maybe at face value it seems like they're good, but maybe in your opinion you feel like I would add one more guy there.
Yes, definitely. And I've said this before on the Fanatic. I'm still surprised they haven't added a veteran to the defensive tackle room, because as good as the defensive tackle room can be, we talked about Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams. There's really no veterans there, because you got Maro Ojomo, 7th-round rookie from last year. You have Marlon Tupelotu, who's really not giving you much. When he's got limited reps, he's done some nice things. But the guy I wanted to see them add was Calais Campbell. He was someone I was monitoring for a while, and then he signs with the Miami Dolphins. So I'm still expecting them to maybe do something. And you just mentioned 2 guys, Linval Joseph, Ndamukong Suh. Howie added them in November that year. So be on the lookout for that. If I'm looking at the defense, I could see them adding a defensive tackle. I also could see them doing it at safety, because they're also very light. We talked about it to start the show. James Bradberry has a shot to make this team at safety. Well, what does that tell you about the safety room? After Reed Blankenship and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, if Sidney Brown starts the season on the PUP list, you have nothing at safety. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson hasn't played a full season in 3 or 4 years. Reed Blankenship's never played a full season in his NFL career. So that could be another area where maybe they add. I still keep looking at Justin Simmons. The guy's out there. He's one of the best safeties in the league, has history with Vic Fangio, but we'll see what they do.
Bill, I'm so grateful to you, my friend. I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for your presence, for blessing this platform, my friend. I'm so proud of what you're doing.
You're killing it, Tone. I love it, man.
Thank you, my friend.
Following along. You're doing a great job, brother.
Thank you, my friend. I really do appreciate it. It's always important, regardless of what you go through, you got to always try to land on your feet. And I really do appreciate you taking the time out and investing your time in me, because I don't take my relationships lightly, and I want to continue to nurture this thing. And hopefully I can bring you back on sometime during the season, maybe after week 1, after week 2. We'll kick it and talk some more football. Obviously, there's going to be way more to talk about. But Bill, please promote anything you got going on, promote the shows, the podcast, anything you want to promote. Please let us know where we can find it.
Well, I've been all over the place on the Fanatic, so I'll try to keep you updated. Follow me on Instagram at Bill Colarulo. Try to post daily content there. Twitter at Bill Colarulo. I'll be on the Fanatic tonight from 6 to 10, doing a lot of Eagles talk. And I'll be on the rest of the week. They just got me all over the place. So 6 to 10 tonight, 2 to 6 on Wednesday, 10 to 2 Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday morning. So I'm all over. I got to just update people through my Instagram and Twitter. They got me doing a lot.
Sounds good. And are you still doing the Legal Hands to the Face podcast, correct?
So I haven't posted on there in a while because the Fanatic has me so busy. So now what I've been doing is just a lot of social media content, but considering bringing it back for the season. We'll see. I'll keep you posted.
Sounds good. Sounds good. You guys, this is Bill Colarulo again, one of the many voices, one of the best voices, one of the best up-and-coming voices in the Philadelphia sports market, covering your Philadelphia Eagles on 97.5 The Fanatic. Bill, I'm grateful for you, my friend. I'll be in contact with you soon. You take care and enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck tonight.
Same to you, Tone. I appreciate you having me, man. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Wow, man. That's been dope, man. Shout out to the good guy, Bill Colarulo, man. He does tremendous work for 97.5 The Fanatic. His podcast is really good. I got a lot of love for Bill, man. Again, him taking the time out to invest in me, that goes a long way. And I take relationship very seriously. I think it's really important to invest in the people that invest in you, right? And Bill's always been down to earth, always been a cool dude, always been easy to talk to, and I really do appreciate Bill. So I'm glad he took the time out. Glad he took the time out to kick with us. Sorry about that little Freudian slip there. But again, you guys, there's a lot going on with your Philadelphia Eagles, and there's so many angles you can approach it from. But the bottom line is, the expectations are high. A lot of people got paid. A lot of people are looking to get paid. A lot of young guys are making an impact in their own way. We're trying to win it all here. And based off of the moves the Eagles have made thus far, I can believe and I can see in their action that they're trying to win it all. But like Bill said, I do agree with them 100%. The one position that I feel as though they need to add to is that defensive tackle room. Now, I know a lot of people say, hey, Moro Jomo, he's got to step up at some point. Or Marlon Tuipulotu, he's got to step up at some point, right? You still got Milton Williams there. You got, obviously, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. You lost Fletcher Cox. Me, personally, I feel like you still should have that veteran. They also have P.J. Mustafa on the roster as well. But I feel like you should have that veteran D tackle, right? The one who has all the tools in his toolkit, right? I just feel like you should have somebody there that you know can do the job unequivocally and can rotate, right? Or just add depth to the room. But again, man, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are talented on both sides of the ball. Obviously, the offensive talent is more proven than the defensive talent. But I think just based off the evaluations, based off what we saw in training camp, based off of just how these guys are approaching everything, I think this defense could potentially really improve from last season. And I think although the defense is very young, they're super talented and it's popping through. So it's really going to be interesting to see how this stuff pans out. Let me get to some of your comments here before we get out of here. Once again, shout out to Bill Colarulo, one of the voices on 97.5 The Fanatic, covering your Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out to him. So let's read some of your comments here. Big Pickens says, agreed. A vet DT would be a bonus, probably later in camp. Yeah, that seems more like the situation, right? That they would probably add that player on the back end of training camp because, you know, if it's a veteran, they don't want to go through training camp. So I think that's probably a more plausible outcome. So I feel you, Big Pickin. Twiz says, who's proven on the edge? Josh Sweat and who else? So I understand your perspective, right? Nolan Smith, unproven. Bryce Huff, he delivered a season that put up 10 sacks, but he was a rotational edge rusher that only played on third down. He only played about 42% of the defensive snaps available to him. You know, is he proven? Can he do it again? Right? Jaylx Hunt, a very young guy, an unpolished product with a ton of athleticism, with a ton of force and power. How good and a ton of size. How good can he be, right? So that's unproven as well. BG, he's on the way out. So let's not even really include him in this conversation. Patrick Johnson, young player, unproven though. So I do understand where Twiz is coming from, right? But with the Philadelphia Eagles investing $17 million per season in Bryce Huff, they're expecting him to take on 70% of those defensive snaps, 65 to 70% of those defensive snaps. They're expecting that at least between 60 to 70% of those defensive snaps. And I would like to believe that they want to have a constant rotation between Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, Jaylx Hunt, and Brandon Graham. I think that's their ultimate goal, to have a rotation with those guys. But Josh Sweat is the only one that's really been proven and doing it for a long period of time besides BG. And even Josh Sweat is not coming off of his best season. So, you know, that edge rusher position, hey, there may be some question marks there. So I definitely understand your perspective, Twiz. Keisha says, I like Bill's takes on the Eagles and the competition during training camp. Yeah, Bill does great work. He does great work. And his perspective is pretty dope as well. James Jones, what's going on, my friend? Our resident Commanders fan. He says, Tone, you're doing great things, man. Keep grinding. Absolutely, my friend. Scale Blazers. He says, Bill's good. I love listening to him. I like listening to him, too. Keisha White says, great talk. Big Pickens says, Saturday cool. Also says, Gabe and Ojomo, I see his depth. All right. Let's see here. What else we got? Eagles fan believes the Eagles should add on the edge. I I wouldn't be surprised about that either, man. Like they could use it. They could definitely use it. Twist says, "Good to hear jammers. I thought about doing that, but PA started wanting people with okay, that's something else. Okay. Big Pickens says Campbell is a Nick guy from Indy. Yeah, so he does have a relationship with Nick, but again, I also believe that this isn't one of those situations where anybody's just making a roster because of relationships anymore. I think this is a different approach that the Philadelphia Eagles are having. But I also believe Paris Campbell has been the best wide receiver outside of AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. And Jalen Hurts has a lot of trust in him. Jalen Hurts threw a beautiful pass to Paris Campbell, beating Darius Slay on a deep ball. And I just feel like that's been really, really dope to see. And Paris Campbell's on a mission. You know, he spoke about it in his press conference yesterday that he was in a real dark place. And now, you know, with the Philadelphia Eagles giving him this opportunity, he's taking it very seriously. He's taking his relationship and his chemistry with Jalen Hurts very seriously. And he believes that in any situation where AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are on the field, he believes that if he's put in a one-on-one situation, he likes him in that situation. So I like the confidence he has. Let's see. Big Pickin also says, he says Davis is going to have a good year. Nose guard is NG is best for him now. Okay. Drew Johnson says, a concern for me is that Blankenship and CJ play similar. Hope they can figure out how they can complement each other or bring someone in. I will say this though, Drew. I think Blankenship is more of a box safety. I think GJ is more of like a playmaker. He can read the ball in the air and make a play on the ball. I think CJ is more of a ball hawk, where Reed is more of a box safety. That's just my opinion, though. So, yeah, man. Tony C says Quinyon Mitchell is the key. I think Quinyon Mitchell is going to be the starter come week 1. That's my honest opinion. Davon Tyree says Devin White's going to be nice. Jason A-Team says, Tone, you're on fire. Yeah, Bill. Hey, listen, man, we appreciate the love and the support. Big Pickens says the O-line sets the standard. I agree with you 100%. And he also mentions that, if Goddard's healthy, he can be a player. He should be a player. And Twiz agrees. Goddard should eat under Kellen. But it all comes back to his health, right? He has to be a healthy player. Point blank period. Davon Tyree says, when last year you bring in 2 brand new coordinators and you went 10-1, well, this other head coaching staff who knows how to coach, I can't wait. I agree with you, right? You started off 10-1 with new rookie coordinators and things kind of fell off the cliff, but then you even hurt yourself even more benching Sean Desai and elevating Matt Patricia. It was a panic move and you should have never did it. So I feel you on that, Davon Tyree. You got 2 guys that actually know what they're doing and they actually have proof of concept. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Twiz says Jalen is about to go off. I feel you on that. I think Jalen Hurts is about to have a career year all the way around. I think this is the season where Jalen Hurts throws over 4,000 yards. I think this is the season where Jalen Hurts has 30 passing touchdowns. I think this is the season where Jalen Hurts' rushing numbers go down just a little bit because Saquon Barkley is opening things up for him so much. I think Jalen Hurts is going to complete 67% of his passes. I think this is going to be a hell of a season for Jalen Hurts. I really, really do. I really do. Kevin Watkins, welcome to the show. He says, I think we will have another 70-sack season. That's hard. It's not easy to do. It's hard. That's a high expectation. But I like where your mind's at, though. James McFadden says, is the running back 2 position a lock for Kenny Gainwell? You know what? I don't believe it should, but because of his standing and his experience, he'll likely start the season as running back 2. But don't be surprised if Will Shipley starts to push him and start to become an option. Will Shipley is a running back that runs with speed, runs with power. He can catch the ball from the backfield, So, and also Kenny Gainwell's in a contract year, so we don't know what his future holds. So this is a big year for him. He understands that he needs to maximize his opportunities, especially with this offense with Kellen Moore. And like Bill said, there's a strong chance that Kenny Gainwell can benefit from being in Kellen Moore's system. Between Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, they accounted for over 80 receptions between the two of them in Kellen Moore's offense. So this is an opportunity for Kenny Gainwell to thrive. Terry Hayes, he says, I'm heading to Georgia for vacation. Hey, man, that's so dope. I know, Terry, you can use it. Terry, you are a man that works a lot. You always working at night, man. You always listening to the show when you're grinding. And Terry, I got to give you a ton of credit. So you need the vacation. You need the vacation, Terry. So, man, take care of yourself. Take care of the family. Hope you guys are enjoying the ride. Unfortunately, you do got to drive through Atlanta. The Atlanta traffic is insane. So just make sure you guys are safe. Make it home safely. Please, 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 Terry, don't answer any work calls, okay? I only want you to have your feet kicked up, all right? So enjoy that time off, Terry. Enjoy that time off, my friend. Davon Tyree says Justin Simmons on a one-year deal. I'm just waiting, Tone. Hey, listen, Justin Simmons is playing hardball right now. That's what I think. I think Justin Simmons is playing hardball. I think he's looking for a big contract, and most of these teams are already spent the kind of money they want to spend. And these teams aren't really spending the biggest amount of money on safeties, right? It's like once a year or once every 2 years, you see a major safety contract, come across the wire, right? The biggest safety contract we've seen as of late was like Jesse Bates, the contract he got from Atlanta. And then obviously Xavier McKinney got a pretty big contract from the Green Bay Packers. But after that, after Xavier McKinney, there's no safety that got a contract north of $10 million a year. Even CJ contract with the Eagles is only about $9 million a season. Kevin Watkins says, with that D-line in the secondary, the quarterback will be holding the ball longer than they want. Hey, man, I hear you, but you lost Fletcher Cox, you lost Hassan Reddick, you lost two productive players. It's going to be a wait and see game. But I like where your mind is, Kevin. I like where your mind is. Davon Tyree says, Tone, when are you going to do a call-in again? So I'm going to try. I'm glad you brought that up. Today's Monday. I'm going to do a call-in show on Friday. I'm glad you requested that. Let's do a call-in show on Friday. All right, that gives me time to prep. That gives you guys time to prep as well. Let's do that. Let's do a call-in show on Friday, and I think it'll be dope. It'll be dope to hear all you guys, share your opinion on your Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, I do a lot of talking all week, so I would love to hear from you guys about your Philadelphia Eagles. So shout out to Davon for reminding me about the call-ins. Let's do that. Let's do that on Friday, right? So hold me to that, you guys. Continue to mention it throughout the week, and I'm going to continue on my end to make sure we're well prepared for that segment. I'm looking forward to it. He also says, Tone, it's wild because Justin Simmons is a top 100 player and he hasn't signed yet. I know. He got cut by the Broncos because they didn't want to pay him that final year of that deal. And, he's 30 and he'll be 31 in November. I think a lot of teams get a little scared off when a guy hits that age at that position. And on top of that, right, Justin Simmons is coming off of an All-Pro and Pro Bowl season. He's a multi-time Pro Bowler and All-Pro. It's crazy how he can't find a home anywhere. But I also think it's because of the number he's looking for. Sometimes that's the rub. Man. But yeah, before I get out of here, you guys, please make sure you guys continue to smash that like button. Make sure you guys continue to stay engaged in the content, and make sure you guys are subscribed. Whether you're an OG viewer or a new viewer, make sure you are subscribed. I want to give another shout out to my man, Bill Colarulo. He's doing amazing work hosting shows and covering your Philadelphia Eagles, covering Philadelphia sports on 97.5 The Fanatic, man. And I know you guys are hearing them every day when you guys are on your way home from work. Maybe you're on your way in the morning. Maybe you're out getting lunch. Bill's voice is permeating through the Philadelphia airwaves, and I know he's doing amazing work, and I know 97.5 is really benefiting from having a guy like that in the building. So shout out to Bill. I'm grateful to him for investing his time in me because I don't take it for granted. So once again, shout out to Bill Colarulo, one of the best up and coming voices in the Philadelphia sports market, man. I learned a lot from Bill. I love the way he delivers the content. I love his preparation. I love how detail oriented he is, but I'm sure that comes from him being a lawyer, man. He's never one who doesn't know what to say, man. He always has the right word to say. So I really do appreciate Bill, for coming in and showing a lot of love to Chalk It Up Sports. Matt Doesn't Matter says, new viewer, I'll be supporting from now on. Love the talk. Gets me more into the season. Wow, Matt. Thank you. I really do appreciate the support. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know you have a ton of options. When it comes to this content space, the YouTube space is saturated with so many great content creators covering the NFL, covering the Philadelphia Eagles, and you decided to lock in with me this afternoon, and I'm grateful for your time. I really am. So shout out to Matt for being an OG or being a new viewer, and now he's going to be an OG viewer. Just make sure you stay locked in, Matt. The content only gets better, man, and the season is on the horizon. Elijah Earl says, I think Simmons might be looking for more security than a 1-year deal. I agree with that. I think that's what it is. I think he's looking for a 2-year deal minimum. Or 3. Actually, I think he's looking for a 3-year deal minimum. That's what I really think. But yeah, man. If you look at the way the safety market went, they cut Justin Simmons, and then they signed a cheaper, younger safety. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that, man. So yeah, you guys, I'm going to get out of here. You guys really turned out for me, man. We had over 100 people in this live stream at one point. Bill did an amazing job giving you guys insight on the Philadelphia Eagles. Please, please, please make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. Make sure you continue to stay engaged in the comment section. If you guys want to invest in the channel or invest in me, you guys have the option of hitting that super chat button where you can donate however much you want, and you can upload a comment. Also, I want to give a shout out to my people who are watching this after the fact, right? If you guys want to donate to the channel, if you guys want to invest, you can hit the super things, right? There's super chats, which you can do during lives. There's super stickers, which you can do during lives. There's also super thanks, which you can do after the live ends. You can donate via the comment section. So again, man, you guys aren't obligated to do that, but I'm grateful whenever you guys do that, and it means a lot to me. And trust and believe, it doesn't go without it being appreciated. So smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell, and make sure you guys continue to be the beautiful people that you are. And that's Fly Eagles Fly. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II. And you guys have been locked in on a Monday afternoon dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game.